Hi, this is Kim Smith. I'm a children's book author and illustrator. I've illustrated such books as Home Alone, the classic illustrated storybook. I'm also the author and illustrator of the upcoming book, Boxitects, and you're listening to the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, Blue!
Yo, Adrian!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave, your host, Elias.
Kim, welcome to the cave.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you? What's new with you?
Not much. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, not bad, not bad. It's raining here today.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's too bad.
So, you've been busy the last few years. New York Times bestselling illustrator of several children's books, like a couple of my favorites have been Home Alone, E.T., Karate Kid, Back to the Future, and you've also are getting ready to debut your own book as well, and we'll talk about that. I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit better. Where are you originally from?
I'm currently, I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I was born and raised here. So I've been in the city pretty much my entire life. Went through my whole art education here as well.
Oh, wow. How was it growing up there?
It was pretty good. Like, I can't really compare it to anything else because this is all I know, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good city. We're kind of we used to be a smaller city, but close to the Rocky Mountains, which is good. And yeah, no, it's a great place to be a kid for sure.
Yeah. So as a kid growing up, what were you into?
A bunch of stuff. I think just kind of my big passions were I was really into Sailor Moon growing up in kind of I guess elementary school and like Japanese anime, and I always loved to draw and create artwork, as a kid, which kind of translated into my career today. And yeah, I just kind of liked collecting rocks and things. And
Okay, that's interesting. So how did your journey begin as an illustrator?
well, I really loved to draw, like I said, growing up. And when I was kind of in high school later, I kind of discovered that you could have a career in animation, but not so much doing like the animation part of it, but you could be a concept artist.
Okay.
So I think Treasure Planet had just come out and I picked up a book and it had all the concept art in it. And I thought, oh, this is so neat. Like it would be so much fun to have a career in that. So I was inspired to go to art school. So I applied and I went to the Alberta College of Art and Design and got my bachelor's in visual communications and with a major in illustration. So that's kind of where I picked up kind of all the skills to become an illustrator. And then, yeah, from there, I just kind of started out in the world of illustration. Like my first job was I was doing concept art for like these big 3D props that would go in like pediatric dental offices. So we do all the designs for that. We do like dental offices that were like themed like jungle themed or like underwater themed. So I started doing drawings for that. And then after a couple of years of that, I decided to move on to kind of my own illustration work. And then that's when I got into children's books.
Wow. Did you have any influences becoming like an illustrator? Did you have anybody that you looked up to?
I really loved kind of Disney animation. So specifically, I really loved, oh, now I'm going to forget his name, Ivan Durrell. I really loved his backgrounds. He was background painter in, I believe, when Sleeping Beauty was being made. So he did all the backgrounds for Sleeping Beauty, and I just love that art style. And then also I really loved 1960s children's books illustrators like Mary Blair. So a lot of that artwork was kind of in the golden books when they first started.
Okay.
So I was really inspired by that, and that's kind of what influenced my art kind of going forward.
It's funny because like if you asked me right now what were some of my favorite books as a kid, I don't remember. But now that I'm a father, it's like me reading my daughter, especially the books. It's like it's a lot of memories coming back, and we just have fun reading every night before she goes to bed.
Oh, that's fine. Are there books that you really enjoyed growing
It,
up that you're able to share with her?
so, oh yeah, well, it's funny because I'm a huge '80s person. I love '80s stuff,
Hmm.
and how I heard about you was one day I was at Costco and I saw the Home Alone book. And so we bought that and she loved that. And then from there, we ended up getting like Back to the Future, and then we got the Karate Kid, and she loves reading those. And then actually just yesterday we got E.T. and Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Fun.
And we read E.T. last night, which was, and she was a little like, oh, it's a little scary. Like, it's not scary. Trust me, it's not scary. I had to keep repeating that to her.
Well, I find, well, especially with something like ET, like I hadn't watched ET until I was 16, and I think it was back in theaters for like, I don't know, the 25th anniversary, but like I hear so many people come up to me and say, "Oh, ET was so scary for me as a child. Like ET gave them nightmares for years and years." So it's kind of funny to hear how people feel about the children's book.
Yeah. But of course the children's book is a little bit different than the movie. It's like if it was actually like the movie, it would be like, yeah, I could see it being a little more scarier, I guess.
Yeah.
So, we'll get back to that too. But first, I want to talk about your debut as an author illustrator. You have a book coming out called Boxitects. Tell us about that, and tell us how you came up with the idea for that story.
So Boxitects is basically about these kids who just like to take ordinary boxes and make extraordinary things with them. So kind of my inspiration for this story was I like to make like a lot of weird things growing up for like crazy big projects, I guess, out of kind of whatever was lying around the house. So for instance, I used to try and make, I used to really want a pinball machine, but obviously they were like very expensive. So I would try and make them out of kind of like pieces of plywood and nails and like elastic bands and things. And they always turned out kind of weird and crazy. But I just thought that it would be fun to kind of make a book about kids who just like to take, that kind of ordinary everyday junk, which I think is lying around like every kid's house, and then to make something really fun and have kids make fun things out of that kind of ordinary stuff. And I feel like it's something that every kid can kind of relate to.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Now, how long did it take you to come up with like the storyline for it and then to illustrate it?
Quite a while. So I guess it's coming out this September. So I think it took me 2 years in order to get to kind of this point. So originally I came up with the idea of Boxitects, and it was basically just like I think at the beginning it was about Meg and another boy, and they're kind of competing to make kind of the most amazing thing out of these boxes. And then what I did was I have a literary agent who represents me in my work. So I kind of threw the idea to her, and I was asking her what she thought about it. And we worked really hard together, making it into what's called a book dummy. So a book dummy is basically just kind of the whole story kind of laid out. All the words are in there. And then it's just like little black and white sketches. And basically we take this dummy and we send it off to different publishers and see if anybody's interested in buying the book. So we did that. We made the dummy and we got it together and we sent it up to publishers. And there are a few that were interested. So I kind of decided which one I thought would be best to work with for my book in order to make my kind of idea the best it could be. So the publisher that we ended up going with was Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and I had worked with them on when I had illustrated The Great Puppy Invasion. So I really loved working with them. I thought that the editor and I we had kind of a good process together, and I thought that she would make the best fit in order to like make the book the best. So once we sold it to Houghton Mifflin, it was just kind of refining the text in the book and then completing the illustrations. And from the time it sold, from about the time it's, I guess, was finished, was about a year in order for it to be on the shelves. But yeah, it takes a while.
Now, do you have an idea for a next book that you
I
want to do?
I have a couple kind of stirring around that I'm working on right now, but nothing that I can share at the moment.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with pop classics?
So Quirk Books had approached me doing the Home Alone picture book. So I think it was the 25th anniversary. They wanted to come out with the picture book version of Home Alone. And yeah, they asked me if I wanted to illustrate it. And I said, of course, because I had grown up with Home Alone and it was such an iconic movie from my childhood. I cannot give up the opportunity to illustrate it. And yeah, so we did that one together and I did all the artwork for it. And then it did really well in bookstores. And I think it was the 2015 holiday season or something. And yeah, it did really well. So Quirk decided to continue on the series and they asked me to continue illustrating the books. Oh, wow. And it's just kind of grown from there. I think X-Files was the one after Home Alone and then E.T. to follow. And then, yeah, we've kept going on it.
So when you're about to illustrate those books, do you go back and watch the movies before you start drawing them?
Yeah, I find it's a super important thing to go back and watch the movies because if I hadn't seen them in a while or if I haven't really dove into the series very much, it's like sometimes what you remember isn't exactly what it was. And I try and watch it at least 2 or 3 times if it's a movie, or I try and watch a number of different episodes in order to try and keep it as close to kind of the source material as possible, but I also try and give it kind of a fun children's book take too.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, were you a fan of like the 80s and 90s movies and pop classics that have been recreated for the children's books?
Yeah, well, for the most part, I have to admit, like, out of all the books that we've done so far, I think the one I was the biggest fan of was Buffy. And then for something like I had seen E.T., but only once, so that was something that I was familiar with culturally, but I hadn't really dove into it. I don't even know. I didn't even remember the full film. And then something like the X-Files, I had seen like 1 or 2 episodes, but that was something I had to go back and rewatch a bunch of the episodes and kind of really get a feel for the series before I started illustrating it, because again, it's so dominant in pop culture that I have all these ideas from kind of like fans and, you know, like other stuff that references it, but I wanted to make sure that I kind of kept it true to the source as much as I could and then do the children's story.
Now, when they come up to you and they say, okay, we're going to, like Home Alone 2, you're about to release that in a few months. Mm-hmm. Do you get the dialogue so you can have an idea how you want to draw these characters?
Yeah, so basically what I get at the beginning of any book that I start, I get the manuscript so that it contains all of the words that are basically going in the book. And then it will also kind of give me the descriptions of either things they want to see on certain pages or just some ideas for the illustrations. I do have a bit of flexibility with that. Like I can bring my own ideas to the table, but it's definitely the manuscript is something kind of almost like my guide for the illustrations.
Okay. Now, is there any movie adaptations that you want to see be created?
Yeah, there's a bunch probably. My favorite, the one that I'm always gunning for, is Jurassic Park. Okay. That was a movie that just really stuck with me. I watched it, I think, when I was 8, and it's stuck with me, and it's one of my favorite films. I would just love to do the children's book take on that. I don't know if it's possible because the dinosaurs are so, well, there's a lot of scary moments in Jurassic Park, obviously. But yeah, that one would be so much fun to tackle.
Ghostbusters would be a good one.
Oh yeah, dude, that would be so much fun. I know there have been a bunch of little golden books on that one too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you get the manuscript for that, like how long does it take you to illustrate that book usually?
That one usually takes me about 3 or 4 months. Okay. Yeah, definitely shorter than writing my own book.
Okay. So you've also done children's video games and puzzles. Tell us about that.
So the children's video games, I used to paint backgrounds for them. So there was a company out of the US, and I think they were called the 3C Institute. So all their games are kind of educational, but they had a fun one called the SS Grin, and it was about these characters who went around different islands, and so I got to paint all the backgrounds for them. So pirate ships and volcanoes and that sort of thing. It was pretty fun. And then, sorry, what was the other one?
Nice to see you did. I say you did video games, you did puzzles, you done posters, magazines.
Oh yeah. So early in my illustration career, like now I only pretty much focus on children's books, but earlier, I used to take on a number of different projects. The puzzles I'm still working on, I guess, but those have been really fun. They've been with Crocodile Creek, and they make such cute, I guess, children's products. But yeah, the puzzles have been really fun with them, and we do kind of like, we've been doing kind of a day at the museum. So we did a day at the zoo with them, and then also a day at the dinosaur museum, which was pretty fun.
Now, do you have your own office? Like, do you work out of home?
Yeah, I work out of my house. I have my own office kind of separated away from things. I find it's helpful in order to take a break away from things.
Okay.
But yeah, I work from home. My dog's here to keep me company most of the time. But
So, what's next for you in the illustrating world? I know you got the book coming out.
Yeah, I think I'm still just chugging along on children's books. There's a couple more pop classics that I can't really say the titles for, but
Okay.
we're working away on that series still, which is pretty exciting. And then the next book, I did a couple books for the Property Brothers, their children's books called Builder Brothers. So the first one was Builder Brothers Big Plans, and the second book is out in September for that series.
Wow. So, lastly, how can the listeners find you on social media?
So I'm Kim Illustration on Instagram. Kim Draws on Twitter, and then or you can always visit my website at kimillustration.com.
All right, Kim, this was fun. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great talking with you.
I don't want to be the one who puts you down and keeps you back. I could never do that. I don't want to be the one who says, oh my God, you shouldn't do that. I don't want to be somebody's wallflower. Just because I'm cheap don't mean I don't charge by the hour. Say that I'm a fool to put my faith and trust in you. They don't even know you. Well, say I end up broke or dead, something worse could be true. That's just the way it may go. I don't want to be somebody's wallflower. Just because I'm cheap don't mean I don't charge by the hour. lift you up. I guess I gotta do that. But I don't wanna be the one who puts you down and keeps you back. 'Cause I can never do that. I don't want to be somebody's wallflower. Just because I'm cheap don't mean I don't charge by the hour.